While I'm making typos, let's see if we can do Objective 3.6, configure, verify, troubleshoot IPv4 and IPv6 static routing. Talk about default route, network route, host route, and a floating static. We're going to configure the default route and the network route, and then we'll talk about how you use those commands with a host route and a floating static route. If I start on this router, I have to tell the system, the route table in a static, how to get to 192.168.2, 1 and 4 networks, so 1, 2, and 4, and they all go to this interface, serial 030 over here, which has an IP address of 172.16.1.1. So 172.16.1.1. So if I want to configure these things, I don't need to do the advertising like I did in RIP. We'll go into config. Yeah, if I could type. Told you while we're doing the typo. So we're going to do IP route, and then what we want is the destination prefix 192.168. Let's see, 192.168.1.0, and then we have to do the subnet mask with a question mark here, 255.255.255.0, and then the number of options here: the forwarding router's address, the next hop, the Ethernet, the interface it's going out of, but we had 172.16.1.1 was the next hop. So we had one, and let's go back, and because I have a great memory and it lasts about 3 seconds. 1, 2, and 4. So when we go to this 1, 2, and 4, I can use the up arrow key. 1, 2, and 4. Okay, great. So now we should be able to route, right? We'll be able to send things to this router, but we won't be able to get anything back, and this is network routing. But let's go in here and configure this guy. Actually, let's go in here and configure this guy. Let's do a default route. Now, default route's a shortcut. It says send everything out this interface, and as you know, it's the gateway of last resort. Config T. We got to go find its, and I think it's 172.16.2.1. 172.16.2.1 is the next hop address. So we'll go in here and do an IP route of 0.0.0.0 with a mask of 0.0.0.0, and it's going to go to 172.16.2.1 will be the next hop. So that is the default route. So send everything there, anything, send routing information for every network there. So that's very useful for end units. We could have done the same thing over here, and maybe it would have been a little bit easier. On this one, we have to be a little bit more specific. So on serial 030, our next hop here is going to be 172.16.1.2 to get to the 3 network. So we can go up here and go into the enable config T and do an IP route to 192.168.1.0. Is that right? To 3.0 to 3.0, and it's going to go to 172.16.1.2. Actually, what I forgot was I got to put the mask in here because we have to tell it how much to find it, as you recall from our subnetting. And then we also, and this was kind of easier, go to the 4 network is going to go to 2.2, I believe. 2.2. So the 4 network. Okay, so we can go down here and say the IP to 172.168.4 network will go to 172.16.2.2. Now, with any luck, so we're doing network routing here. We're routing to a network, and we're giving it the next hop address. We can do an end, and we can show an IP route. So we have statics here. Yes, the gateway of last resort is not set, so easier to show IP route. Let's see if it'll do that. Static 192.168.3 via 1.2 and via 2.2. If I go to this guy and do I show IP route, static S star, and remember the star means that it is the gateway of last resort. So if I show an IP route, gateway of last resort is set to network 0.0.0. So I guess that let's see what this one guy's address is, 2.2. See if we can ping 192. Ping 192.168.2.2, and with any luck, and I'm not having any luck today, I'm timed out. Okay, so it did work. So that's the way that we would do these things. How will we troubleshoot this? Ping, trace route. If we do a trace route to, let's say 192.168. Let's go to the other one. What is it? 4.2. It's going to take us from router to router. We're at 172.16. So it completed. We went to 192.168.3.1, which would be the interface on the first router, and then to 1.1, and then to 2.2, which would be down here, and then on to the destination. If I had a failure, the router that it failed on would be the place that we would start our troubleshooting. The other thing, just like everything else, typos, show IP route, show IP route static to be sure that you have configured the next hop as you think the next hop should be. So you don't have any typos, you're going out the interfaces that you expect. So that should take care of IPv4. I need to set up an IPv6, but it's going to be the same process, except we have to enable IPv6 unicast routing and then do the configurations with the IPv6 route instead of IP route. So let me get that set up and I'll be right back. Okay, this is the IPv6 topology we're going to use. Instead of letting you sit here and watch me make a whole bunch of mistakes, I'm only going to do one route. We're going to do this router. It's got the network routes in it, most of them. It's got the network route to the 2001 DB8:1:3 and then colon. You notice /64. We do use CIDR notation when we do these things. So we're going to set our route to the 2001 DB8:1:2:/64 network, and the address that we're going to go to here is going to be 2001 DB8:1:A001:2, which we can use for static routes. If we're having dynamic routes, the link local address, the FE80 addresses, are going to show up as the next hops. And the routers do need the next hop addresses in order for routing to work. And we'll go in here and let's look at some of what is on this thing. We're going to show the running configuration. IPv6 unicast routing is enabled on it. So spanning tree, we have IPv6 address. This one the IPv6 addresses are manually configured. We have the IPv6 global unicast addresses as well as the link local addresses that are on it. We have two routes here to the A002 and to the 1:3. So the A002 is this route over here in order to get to those if we wanted to ping this interface, for instance, and the other one is the :1:3. But in order to write the one, we're going to do an IPv6 route, and it's going to be, I usually copy and paste, but I'll see if I can write it. 2001:db8:1:2:/64. And then if we do the question mark, we can again specify the interface that we're going out, IPv6 address of the next hop. So we do need to put that in. We can either tell it the interface we're going out of or the next hop address, and it is 2001:db8:1:A001:2, and then we can put an administrative distance in here. And I said I'd talk about the floating static. A floating static is a static address that backs up a dynamic address in case something happens to the dynamic routing protocol. In that case, we would have to configure the administrative distance, because as you recall, a static route has an administrative distance default of 1. And all of the dynamic routing protocols are much, much higher. So we would have to configure for a floating static an administrative distance of something that is greater than the dynamic routing protocol. Otherwise, the static's going to take over. The other one was a host route, and in the host route we do the same process that we're doing here and that we did in IPv4, except we put the address of the host that we're trying to get to, and then we use a 255.255.255.255/32 as the default, as the mask, in order to send it to an individual device. So that should take care of that one. The next thing that I want to do is go over here and let's configure the default route, because the default route sends everything there. Config T, and let's do an IPv6 route, and I'll do : /0, which says everything, and we're going to 2001:db8:1:A002:1, and that should take care of the route. And again, the IPv6 default route says send everything there. So now we're going to take the big risk, and this is where I am going to copy and paste. We'll go in here, and the IPv6, notice that the link local address is the we have the link local address, but the IPv6 gateway is the link local address of the router. But this has an IPv6 address, so we'll go in here and copy it and see if we are able to ping it from some other location. Ping, and let's see, we'll paste it and see if it works, and lo and behold, we have routes. So we have configured static routes. The troubleshooting for the IPv6 to me becomes a little bit more difficult because of the length of the addresses and the hexadecimal. But the same things are going to happen to you. I typed the route wrong. I had the default gateway wrong. I didn't enable IPv6 unicast routing. those all have to be done. Same things that can go wrong in IPv4 can go wrong in IPv6. A little bit more complex of an addressing scheme, a whole lot more opportunity to make a typo, but the troubleshooting basically the same for each of them. So that should take care of 3.6, configure, verify, troubleshoot IPv4 and IPv6 static routing, and that should take care of the Objective 3 routing fundamentals. The next one is infrastructure services, for the 4 objectives, which are 15% of the exam. See you there when we talk about DNS.